Afternoon. So, Proteas captain Faf du Plessis has addressed the media about the readiness of the team ahead of the Boxing Day test against England, which is, of course, starting on Thursday in Supersport Park in Centurion. Our reporter, Shonim Timkulu, was at today's briefing at Supersport Park, and she joins us to chat about the main talking points. So, Shoni, turmoil. Turmoil is what's been the theme of discussion for much of December, much of November as well, and the coaching restructure, and I would imagine Faf had to answer that first before talking about what to look forward to during the match. Can it be said that he's now happy with things having settled? Yeah, definitely. I mean, Faf's been very honest even before today. Last week he was talking about it. When they came back from India, he was honest as well about it, that the fact that there wasn't a permanent structure within Cricket South Africa is affecting things, because you can't plan anything without knowing who your team director is, without knowing who your director of cricket is, without knowing how this new structure within CSA is going to work. So he has been very clear, and he was very clear that, you know, over the past, he says 6 months, but you know, when you look back to the Sri Lanka loss as well, he's had to take a chunk of all those losses, plus the World Cup, plus India as well. But let's hear a bit more from the man himself.
6 months it has felt like a little bit more weight on my shoulders, you know, because things were going, I could see so many things happening off the field, you know, not the right structures being happening, and obviously that doesn't give, it's never an excuse for the team, that the cricket that we play. We will always get judged on performances, but for me now personally, it has been a breath of fresh air to have these guys back. You're almost in the position now where you sit and you go, why has these guys not been here for the last 10 years? You know, it's so important to have people like that in an international dressing room.
We have a director of cricket, we have a head coach, we have bowling and batting consultants, so there seems to be some stability now in the national team. Have they had much of an impact, if any?
Well, the players, when we spoke to them last week, did say that they have had an impact in the few days that they've had with the team. We know that the pre-camp or the gathering first started last week Wednesday, and when we spoke to Dwayne Proteas and Kagiso Rabada on Friday, they both said that they hadn't had that intense of a training session in either ever or in a while. So I think that obviously they were making up for the fact that they were coming in cold. But I think the other thing is that there was Mzansi Super League before, you know, so even if the new coaching staff was there, there was Mzansi Super League before, so that would have affected anyway where the camp would have happened, whereas England were in New Zealand, so South Africa had the Mzansi Super League. So I mean, they made do with what they could do, but they've been very clear that, you know, these weren't ideal preparations with everything going around, but they're making do with that situation.
Now, Shoni, India was torturous, and India was a nightmare. If a lot of South Africans would probably agree with me, and we heard the captain alluding to the fact that we went in there with a temporary and possibly a technical team we were not going to have going into the future. We do now have that sorted. So is he basically saying that lessons have been learned by CSA?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's still not the main decision maker, so he can say what he says, and he can feel how he feels about it. But ultimately, at the moment, it's Jacques Fall who's the head of operations and making those decisions. But I think that for him, especially as the captain, he does feel that now we can, as he said earlier, that, you know, he's wondering why weren't these people there all along. You know, he could see that the structure that was put in place, or the way, the direction that things had been going, wasn't quite ideal for the players. So I suppose lessons have been learned. Graham Smith is only there for 3 months, but Mark Butcher's there for 4 years, or until the next Cricket World Cup. So we'll see how it works out. I think it is still very early days. You don't know how results will go. Obviously, that's a big thing. I mean, if it's not going to be about winning, or if they don't win, who knows what's going to happen. But they did say, Mark Butcher alluded to it last week, and Faf du Plessis did say it today, that it's all good and well to have these people here and to have this positive energy now and to have all these things confirmed, but if results don't speak on the pitch, then it doesn't matter. So ultimately, what happens now against England, what happens against Australia, what happens against India, those will be the telling signs if everything is working.
Now, just before I let you go, we've had an implosion in our cricket, especially in the boardroom, which has filtered down to the team itself. England have touched down here and have caught a couple of bouts of some sort of sickness. Is that going to have any kind of bearing on their performance in the test?
So, actually, it's interesting that the illness of the players in England, or the England camp, has taken such a front seat, actually, to England's preparations, and now with the issue around Ben Stokes as well. So, at the moment, the England camp is still saying that they're not sure about some of their players, Stuart Bojo, Afra, Archer, if they'll be fit to play. So, they're still taking it as each day goes. They're still going to make a decision on those two, and Jack Leach as well. So they're not sure what's happening. But you don't expect that little things like that will play such a big role, but they have played such a big role. They caused the downgrading of the weekend's warm up. But when asked about the issues that have been happening in South Africa and if they're going to capitalize on that, so first of all, Chris Silver with the coach was like, I don't want to talk about this, but the players have been talking and they don't see that as an issue. They say that boardroom matters are boardroom matters, but what happens on the field, there's a lot of, the word that's been thrown around a lot is pride, and South Africa is a proud nation, so they don't think that South Africa will take a back seat. They don't think that they weaken anyway, but they will make good and make it a good test series.
Thank you very much, Tony. So that is our reporter Shonim Timkulu chatting to us about the Proteas' readiness ahead of the 4-match test series against England. Of course, it is getting underway on Boxing Day. That's on Thursday. Now,